We really haven't given enough credit and enough thought and enough talk and enough podcast time to Alabama's winning their 30th SEC championship. And so we're going to do that right now.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is, I don't know, it's not brought to you by anybody. I just noticed that. We don't have a sponsor today. Okay, we do later. But thanks for making us your first listen every day. We appreciate you guys a ton. I just realized I'm wearing Michigan blue. That is just a screw up on my part. It's just a pretty shirt. What do you want to say?
You spying on us? You spying on Alabama in that shirt?
Dude, this is me out there. Anywho, Jimmy, I want to give a shout out to really quickly to a buddy of ours, Kyle Graveman. He sent me he sent me a post from something called the Main Board. I don't even know where that is. I don't know. But a guy named Smuggy, shout out to you, said, I love the Jimmy Stein and Luke Robinson On 3 podcast. We're not the On 3 podcast. We're the Locked On podcast. And I hope you meant you love the Locked On podcast and not the Jimmy Stein and whoever else does the On 3 podcast with them, but maybe you love them both. He said, I'm also jealous how Luke always has free tickets fall into his lap. And I was like, he's not wrong.
Then he listens to this show. He listens to this show, not others.
Because it is, look, it is, I've learned a long time ago, it's less important to be educated and well-rounded than it is to have friends that have a lot of money. So what I try to do is just make sure that I keep the people around me as happy as possible.
You get wiser as you get older. When I was a kid, there was nothing I wanted more than a boat. I wanted a boat, man. I'm like, man, when I'm an adult, I'm going to get a boat, because I was really into fishing and stuff. And then I became an adult, and what I found out is, man, what I really, really, really want is a friend with a boat. So
yeah, that is very true.
That's kind of
a very prominent Alabama booster I know said the two best days he's ever had is when he bought his boat and when he sold his boat. So anyway, Jimmy, let's talk about this SEC championship game for a second, because, we didn't give it the love it deserved. I mean, this was Alabama's 30th SEC championship game. We've won double of everybody else. It's pretty amazing. And, here's another thing that now this doesn't directly tie into the game, but Alabama's made 15 SEC championship appearances. 15. That's a boatload. That's more than everybody, two more than Florida at 13, 4 more than Georgia at 11. We're 11-4 in this thing. That's bananas. And we started, you know what we started out? 1-3. We won the first one. Yeah. And then we ran into
Stallings was 1-2, I guess. Stallings won in 92, lost in
90,
94, 96.
Yeah.
So he was 1-3. Dubose was 1-0. Dubose won the only time he got there, 99. And then Shula and Fran never got in there. So really the massive success is Nick Saban's, and who would guess that? It's amazing, and not changing any subject at all, because I know we're going to talk about recruiting in a second. But before we got on the air, I was just in awe about what was Coach is 72 now, right? So yeah. Saturday, he beats Georgia, one of the most significant wins in Alabama football history, beats Georgia. Sunday is included in the college football playoff field. You find out Sunday that not only you get to play another game, you're playing Michigan for the national championship, and you find that out Sunday. And then Monday, you're thinking, oh, can he put his feet up? He's 72 years old. He needs a break after all that. Of course, nope. He hits the road recruiting. Because as we're speaking, he's just now leaving Gadsden. And I believe between today and yesterday, I'm not sure if it's yesterday or today, he's been to Oklahoma. Today, again, he was in Gadsden. That guy has more energy than the sun.
He's a human B12 shot. Of course, I'm getting a phone call. But anywho,
It's probably more free tickets falling in your lap. Somebody calling Luke going, "Hey, you want my Rose Bowl tickets? You can have them. They're free."
Hey, you want to go to U2 at the Sphere in Vegas?
Oh,
anywho,
tease.
all right. So
that's just
one
me.
thing
You're
that
teasing me about that.
I do want to do that. Here's something that I found very interesting, though. Of our 11 wins, only 4 times was the MVP the quarterback. Jalen Milroe is now one of those times. Greg Mack won it. Blake Sims won it. Of course, Bryce won it. He set the passing mark in the SEC championship game. And now Jalen Milroe's won it. And, that means that A.J. McCarron never won it. It means Mac Jones didn't win it. It means Tua never won it. It means that Jay Barker never won it. Jalen Hurts didn't win it. I mean, I just find that fascinating. That
kind of crazy.
Because it wouldn't. I don't mean to cut you
off the bench. The game that Hurts won coming off the bench, he didn't win it.
That was Josh Jacobs.
And
here's the thing. I remember thinking you got to give it to him, but Jacobs had a whale of a game that night. A whale of a game, and people forget that because of what Jalen Hurts did.
That. I thought Hurts should have been the MVP. Now that the memories are flooding back. Yeah, I remember Josh Jacobs winning that and thinking I'm a huge Josh Jacobs fan, of course. But I remember thinking that story with Hurts coming off the bench was just too good. You got to go with Jalen, but they didn't.
All right, so Jalen Milroe wins the MVP. Who, if you can't pick Milroe to be this past game's MVP, who would you pick? And I think I'm going to go with Deontay Lawson. Because here's let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. I think Terrion Arnold played very well. I think he did. He had a couple of mistakes in there, but I mean, he had a pass interference. I think he covered a lot of dudes. I think Isaiah Bond played really well. He stepped up for sure. Roydell Williams, I mean, he was a warrior. But what makes me want to go with Deontay Lawson? There was a time in there where he had 2 tackles for losses back to back.
I remember.
And his improvement from the Iron Bowl to this game makes me want to give him even extra credit.
Right. Because of the health and
the health.
He was the best. He was the best Lawson we've seen since September. I still think an even healthier Lawson is out there, and hopefully we'll see that against Michigan, particularly a team that runs the ball like they do. We really need to be good inside, so we need a healthy Lawson for Michigan. But hey, if I'm picking an MVP in that game, and can't pick Jalen Milroe, who rightfully won the award, but if I would go way off the radar, this is going to shock you a little bit. But my MVP would be Caden Proctor, and no, not because of the strides he's made. I'm talking about how he played in the game and him being the rightful representative of the Alabama offensive line. Pro Football Focus. And, I'm not a major – I don't think everything they say is literal gospel, but I'm interested in what Pro Football Focus has to say all the time. I just don't read it like I'm reading, the 100% gospel truth. But Pro Football Focus says in their grades, Caden Proctor was not only the highest graded offensive lineman in the Alabama-Georgia game, he was the highest graded offensive lineman in any championship game this weekend. And he did it against Georgia, and as a true freshman. So I go Caden Proctor for my MVP, other than Milroe, who was the rightful MVP winner. We're not saying he wasn't.
No, and again, I think those 2 players that we just mentioned especially need shout outs because a lot of people are talking about. I'll tell you one other shout out, and we can't really get into it now, but Tommy Reese. The more I go back and watch this game, and if y'all know me, especially really only on wins, I go back and rewatch especially segments of a game that I know were crucial. That right after Georgia scored that touchdown to make it a 3-point game again, and we got the ball, and I mean there were like 10 minutes left plus or minus, and I was like, I just want to get a first down or 2 and make it where it's not easy for them to drive down because I honestly didn't have a lot of faith. I have no problem saying that. And the very first play is a little short dump off essentially, or I don't know what you'd call a little, not even a crossing pattern because there was nobody crossing with him, but to Isaiah Bond. And he turns it upfield, gets a big first down. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we can go down and score. Now, again, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, we're going to go down and kick a field goal and just try and hold them out of the end zone. And we were really, really aggressive. I give Tommy Rees a lot of credit for that. I'll tell you somebody else I give a lot of credit to, and that's Jase Medical. You want to go check out jasemedical.com. I know we come to sport here to this podcast to escape from some of the crazy realities of real life, but can we talk for just a minute about preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. This is very scary. I can't imagine a more helpless feeling than, say, if my daughter Selah or one of my kids got sick while a supply chain issue kept them from life-saving medication they need. Thankfully, we'll be okay because of Jase Medical, and I do have my Jase case. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to literally any of us. Visit jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than right now. Go to jasemedical.com and use offer code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. Somebody, I'm telling you, you're going to need this. One of y'all is going to need it. You don't know who it is. Go check out jasemedical.com. Use offer code LOCKEDON. All right, Jimmy, I think I want to do some news, and we're going to break it into 2 segments. I think we'll do transfer portal in this segment and then recruiting in the next segment. Transfer portal, first of all, nothing seems so right. Or if you had told me, I don't know, maybe in the second quarter of the South Florida game, if future Luke had come to watch at that time, current Luke watching the second quarter of the South Florida game, and it said, Luke, listen to me. I know you're watching Tyler Buckner be quarterback at Alabama right now, but he will be ultimately in the transfer portal as a lacrosse player. You know what past Luke would have said? That sounds about right based on what I'm seeing. And I don't mean that as an insult necessarily, but I'm telling you that when I saw Tyler Buckner in the transfer portal, I was thinking that makes a ton of sense. And then when I saw it was for a completely different sport and he's going back to Notre Dame to play it, I thought this is the most spot on thing that's ever happened.
It's fascinating. I mean, I assumed Tyler Buckner would leave at first opportunity. And I figured he had to graduate first, and now he found a loophole. He's so smart. He found the loophole, but hasn't graduated yet, which doesn't require a loophole. But yeah, what a crazy story. This is what I hate most about the Tyler Buckner thing. I know we can't, just hold up the Men in Black, light up pen and erase our memories. But it's not fair, I think, for that kid that the South Florida disaster is what he'll be remembered by, because he needs to be remembered as the Gator Bowl MVP for Notre Dame and beat South Carolina. There is no way that kid we watched at South Florida was the same kid that won Gator Bowl MVP when Notre Dame beat South Carolina. Obviously, that stage, the Alabama stage, the moment, it wasn't the stage, you're playing South Florida, but the moment, hey, Tyler, if you play great, you become Alabama's starting quarterback. And it just was a disaster. It was literally like the kid who knew all his lines for the school play, and then it's opening night, and you're playing, you're playing Othello, and you can't remember, Othello's name, which is right there on the marquee. So
you call him Albert.
That's what it was like.
Wouldn't that be such a different play if William Shakespeare had said, the name of this is Albert?
Well, yeah, I'm so uneducated, to be honest. I couldn't promise you that there's a character in Othello named Othello. I can't promise you that. It probably is, but I don't know.
When I think Othello, I think about the guy from the state of Mississippi who ended up going to Georgetown to play basketball. You remember Othello Harrington?
Othello Harrington. That's not what that play's about.
future William Shakespeare went back to past William Shakespeare. He used the same time machine. Regardless, you're right, Jimmy. He should be remembered for that. But here's the other thing. I thank you, just like I thank Mike Shula. I thank Tim Tebow. I thank you, Tim Tebow, for not coming to Alabama. When you didn't come and I thought you were going to come for a second, I was thrilled to death. Mike Shula, when you ended up not winning the game in 2006 against Arkansas, and you wouldn't go for a touchdown against Tennessee, go for it on fourth down against Tennessee in 2006, I called you crazy and a nut job. And it turns out you knew what you were doing for the betterment of Alabama's future. And Tyler Buckner, I thank you in that same way, in the sense that, you came in, you did what we asked you to do. It did not work out. It did not work out. It doesn't mean you're a bad guy. It doesn't mean you're a bad player. It's just not a good fit. And we needed you to go out there, honestly, and not play well to lead us to Jalen Milroe. And again, I am not taking a shot at you. I don't want you to think I'm taking a shot at you. I'm telling you that it didn't work out. It doesn't mean you're a bad player. It doesn't mean you could go somewhere and play quarterback. I truly believe that. However, it wasn't going to be at Alabama, but without your coming in and in that game and having that kind of game, we don't end up with the Jalen Milroe we have now. So, I mean, I know it's a backhanded compliment, but it is what it is.
That it is. Kind of interesting.
Was that too harsh? Was that too harsh?
It's harsh, but it's not. It's not mean, because I don't think you intended it to be mean.
I did not mean it to be mean.
But I had a observation this morning on the BOL board on the round table there, where I wrote out this and kind of didn't plan it, but I saw a comment and it reminded me to say this. The staff deserves, and it's on this topic, the staff deserves a ton of credit for building this offense around Jalen Milroe, but they started it in week 4. It was after South Florida. It was the day they get back from South Florida. That Sunday, Tommy Rees sits at the magic drawing board, is like, and Nick Saban's like, we're going Jalen Milroe. And he's like, all right, so build it around Milroe. So it started that day. And to get from week 4, where it started, to where it ended in week 14, beating Georgia this past weekend, that 10 weeks, that's amazing. They deserve a ton of credit, especially Tommy Rees, for creating this offense over 10 weeks or 10 weeks that ultimately toppled Georgia, the 2-time defending national champs. A ton of credit. But you know what? It's a fair criticism. I don't criticize a lot, but it's a fair criticism to say, how much further along would we have been if they handed the job to Milroe in the spring, identified him as the best quarterback in the spring, and started building it around him then through the summer and through fall camp. And hey, instead of week 4 against Ole Miss, it's week 1 against Middle Tennessee, running the Jalen Milroe offense. And I think to myself, if it's a fair criticism to say they should have done that. But you know what? This doesn't matter really, but it sort of does. If Nick Saban had announced halfway or a week before A-Day, Jalen Milroe is going to be our starting quarterback, it would have been relentless negativity from some people. Not me and you. We would have been saying, hey, let's give the guy a chance. But it would have been relentless. People would have just been pretty relentless about it. We've seen that, in Alabama social media.
Let me say this, and again, I probably boofed what I was saying earlier. So y'all go easy on me. I know there'll be some people, Luke hates to play it. That's not what I'm saying. I really am saying that I guess I'm thankful to the universe that it panned out the way it did. And let's also say this. I'm thankful to Andy Papanastos for missing that field goal in the national championship game. Without that, we don't have the most iconic play in national championship history on 2nd and 26. So here's the other thing. Tyler Buckner does need to be celebrated in this sense. I know we all get a kick out of he's in the transfer portal for lacrosse. Ha, ha, ha. I get it. I've joked about it. I don't know if you have. But, it did take some guts to right after Milroe, who did not have a horrible game against Texas. He didn't have a horrible game. You could argue that Milroe probably should have been still been the starter. But there was such an outcry from fans like not us necessarily. We weren't saying this, but just fans to do something different. They were like, okay, we're going to throw Tyler Buckner to the Wolves and see what happens. And it didn't go well. It doesn't mean he's a bad guy. It doesn't mean he's a bad player, but it didn't go well. In fact, it went in such a way, and this Ty Simpson's in this grouping too. It went in such a way that we were like, okay, clearly Jalen Milroe is our best option. And Jalen Milroe has been a different person since. So without Tyler Buckner and Ty Simpson's bad moments in the South Florida game, we don't have the MVP of the SEC championship game. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, like you said, I think thanking the universe makes more sense. I mean, in terms of like, it's so funny how, hey, if I'm not thanking Drew Brees for racking up his shoulder and missing an NFL season and all that pain, but had Drew Brees not hurt his shoulder and had been a quarterback for the Miami Dolphins while Saban was there, Nick Saban never would have been in Alabama. So do we thank Drew Brees? I don't know about thanking Drew Brees, but thanking the universe seems right. That if it wasn't for Drew Brees' bad shoulder, we probably never have a Nick Saban at Alabama. Worse, we might have ultimately had a Nick Saban at our rival school and making our lives miserable.
Yeah, that is so true. So again, I know it sounded horrible the way I presented it because I do no preparation for this show. So, and I'm sorry. But Tyler Buckner, man, I wish you the best of luck. I hope you go. And if there's a professional lacrosse league, I hope you win it and are the MVP and the Tom Brady of the professional lacrosse league. That's what I swear. I'm not. I thank you.
I don't rule out him playing football there.
This is a Garth Brooks. This is a Garth Brooks. Thank God for unanswered prayers. Sometimes, you know what I mean, or thank God for answered prayers that turned out to make you wish you hadn't asked them for the first place. Whatever. That'd be a horrible.
That's confusing. Don't be surprised if Tyler Buckner still plays football for Notre Dame.
Good for him. I hope he does. I want him to do well. I would love to see Tyler Buckner do well at Notre Dame. I'm pro that. Please go do that.
He's got two more seasons. Yeah, he's got 2 more seasons of eligibility, and looks like Notre Dame's trying to bring in Riley Leonard to be their starter this year. Maybe Buckner puts a fourth effort to be a starter once again at Notre Dame. He would be winning the job for like a third time in the year,
Jimmy,
in the year
really
following.
Quickly, is he going to be with us through? He's not going to be with us through the playoffs then.
We don't know this, but the rumor is that he is, that they would prefer him stay, that he would like to stay. And if you think about it, it would probably take 3 turned ankles to get Buckner on the field. I think if Jalen goes down, it would be Ty. And if Ty goes down, it would be Dylan. And I think Buckner right now would be running 4th. But you're playing Michigan or you're playing for the national championship. And while I wouldn't necessarily say things will be going great if it gets down to that, but how many teams out there have a 4th string quarterback who's started as many games as he has?
Who's won a bowl MVP?
He's been a bowl game MVP, and he would be QB4. Now, again, if you get down to your 4th quarterback in the playoffs,
I got to stop you because I got to get to FanDuel. We'll talk about this a little bit more on the other side. But as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay super hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Telling you, it's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, why wait? You're just crazy to wait. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off or enjoy or whatever the NFL season, the NBA season, the NCAA, all of it. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. All right, I guess I want people to understand I wasn't trying to jank on Tyler Buckner. I really wasn't, because I feel bad, but I'm not starting the podcast over for it. I just want to say I'm sorry. So I'm sorry about that. But I think people understand where I'm going with this. Like imagine this. Tyler Buckner throws for 2 touchdowns, but really looks pedestrian. And Alabama wins 30-3, but we look kind of pedestrian, and then we stick with Tyler Buckner. I mean, anyway, I'm just saying it could have been a problem. Now let's turn the recruiting angle around here and say, okay, instead of guys, by the way, Tyo Jones-Bell is in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And Jimmy, this is going to sound awful too. I swear I forgot he
You're
was
on a
on the team.
roll. You're on a roll. Well, he wasn't on the team.
Huh?
He wasn't on the team. I mean, what happened was prior to the fall last summer, he was placed on medical hardship, which is much different. There is no term butchered more out there than medical red shirt because people just get that wrong. But anyway, what happens is he was placed on medical hardship, which means that he was too injured to play football. So Alabama could remove him from the roster and remove him from counting against the scholarship numbers, even though he remained on scholarship and attending Alabama on scholarship for free. He didn't count against the 85 because Alabama removed him from the roster entirely due to a medical condition. It has now been determined that Jones-Bell is now cleared to resume football activities, but because Alabama medically hardshipped him, he must do that somewhere else. But that was, I think, always the plan.
Okay. Hey, whatever. I'm just saying he's in the portal. Yeah. I mean, it's a thing, whatever. I hope he gets his rings.
Man,
I hope he gets
that
all
kid
of it.
stuck it out.
Yeah.
He
and
stuck
here's
it
another
out,
thing.
you know.
Tyler Buckner, hang around, man, because if we win this thing, you get a national championship ring. Do that.
That's right. And he would deserve
I'm
it.
all about it.
Yeah, he would deserve it.
Now,
yes, and I believe he is. I just don't know that that's a final or permanent, like, signed off on, hey, this is what's happening. But I believe that's the general idea, is that Buckner's going to remain part of the team and at Alabama through the playoffs, and then he'll enroll at Notre Dame in time for the spring semester.
Okay, there are two guys specifically from Texas A&M. There's also a center from Notre Dame. I know there's a lot of interest in him from Alabama. But there's two guys from specifically Texas A&M and Walter Nolan and Evan Stewart that me personally I love. Now,
of course,
you would think on all this money I'm saving on free tickets, I should be able to contribute to our Yay Alabama fund and help get these guys. But yeah, I would take Walter Nolan and Evan Stewart in a heartbeat. I do understand maybe that relative to their ranking, I don't think they've performed as well as everybody thought they would in their first 2 years. Give me those two guys and let me see if it works out. That's me. Now, let me read this other thing that was sent to me, Jimmy. This is tweeted by Callie Cam. I don't know who Callie Cam is, but I'm going to try and figure this out too. She is a recruiting coordinator and brand ambassador. I don't know for who, but whatever. That's okay. She seems like she knows what she's talking about. She got a lot of followers. She says, when I recruit a high school, this is from a college coach. When I recruit a high school kid, I have to deal with a top 14, a top 8, and other random announcements for clicks with no real gauge on their interest. While a kid in the portal will usually tell me exactly what he's looking for and if interest is there from the jump. That's also what's killing high school recruiting. That's a great point. That if you get in the portal, you can say, I don't want you, don't you call me, don't you call me, don't you call me. I need $700,000, $150,000, whatever it is. And I want to start right away. Who can do that? In high school, you can kind of do it, but it could backfire and then you end up with nobody. But if you go in the portal, you've probably already spoken with somebody that knows I'm giving you a scholarship. So that's just very interesting to me.
Yeah, it's more mature kids. It's like, that's the thing that's so fun about college football. You're literally seeing these kids grow up. They grow from kids to adults while they're in college, many of them. So when you're recruiting 21-year-olds, it's not like recruiting 17-year-olds. It's nothing like recruiting 17-year-olds. 21-year-olds are more equipped. They're more mature. They've grown, intellectually, and they know more about the business of football, that it's a business for the adults. And I think it's just easier to communicate with 21-year-olds as opposed to 17-year-olds. And so that doesn't surprise me. I still don't think you'll see Alabama, heavily recruit the portal. I think it's going to continue to be what it's been, which is 2 kids, 3 kids, max 5 kids. I think that's what you'll see with Alabama in terms of signing kids out of the portal.
Well, and then one other thing, Jordan Seaton will be making his announcement on Thursday. This is a guy that I really, 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 really want, but I mean, I know that there's a lot of NIL involved here, and I think it's going to come down to, is it going to be a NIL thing completely, or is it going to be, hey, I can sacrifice a little money now for a lot of money later in terms of NFL and development? So I don't know. I hope we get him. I'm not super confident.
Yeah, at BOL, we are, let's say, cautiously optimistic. I mean, in terms of like, it could happen. He may very easily pick Alabama. I think Alabama has been his favorite at various points in the process. And we think it might be Alabama. We're not ruling that out. I would just say that there's less certainty and less optimism now than there once was. If I had to guess at this exact moment, it might be Tennessee for him. But hey, Alabama's very realistic. Kid's a great prospect. Very similar to Tyler Booker, very similar to Jase Latham, very similar to Evan Neal, those other tackles that have come from IMG. He's in their category. So, hopeful, and we'll see what kind of decision he makes. As Luke says, I think if he makes a decision that's 100% based on immediate, day one payday, it might not be Alabama.
Yeah, and then I just want to reassure everybody, I still feel fantastic about Ryan Williams. I feel better than I have in a while, and so I just want to throw that out there. And
He has some announcement coming up that might be of interest to Alabama fans. There's an announcement that's coming.
We will talk about that too. And until next time, everybody, roll Tide.
Roll Tide.